Welcome to Shut Up and Say Something. I am your host and creator of the show, Deedre Daniel. This podcast is all about how to live a fascinating life, and we're learning how to do that one interesting conversation at a time. We try to stay away from discussing politics, religion, and the ad nauseum topic du jour, but anything else is fair game. And today I am speaking with Valerie Gordon. Val, who I like to call her Val, has won 10 Emmys. 10. And she has made a living producing stories that educate, entertain, and inspire. She understands how our own internal stories impact our external results. And she recently wrote a book called Fire Your Narrator, which addresses how to wrangle that voice inside your head that is preventing you from reaching your goals.
It's really so much about knowing your story, the value that you bring, and how to tell it. When you think about it, everything is a story. How we interview, how we network, the stories we tell about ourselves, how we negotiate. You know, when you go into that scene, what do you say to get the optimal outcome?
I wanted to have you on the show because I love your story about how you became the Geico caveman, and there was so much scrappiness behind it. And I know there are a lot of people that want to do interesting things, and there's a recipe. There really is. There's a lot of grit, and I thought you could share that story with everybody.
It was a very, very strange story. I never really saw myself becoming any sort of actor or performer in any sort of legitimate sense.
Mike, you've really opened up my world, because so many people have said to me they want to be a wine expert of some sort, and they want to go to schools and all this kind of stuff and internships, and just to take your hacked method here.
Yeah, the as if frame. Jump in at the top. At the top. I mean, I got to taste some insane Bordeaux, but then it moved to Scotch. This one was crazy.
Toss the shingle of the 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath townhouse here in Nashville out the window and live in a van permanently.
I had the rest of my life. This is what I said to myself. I had the rest of my life to work a gig that simply pays the bills that I may not like or enjoy. There's plenty of jobs out there that can do that. So why don't I use this energy while I don't have many strings attached to me, no wife or kids or family that I'm directly responsible for? Why not jump without a safety net and figure that out on my own? And it's worked for me. You sink or swim when you do something like that, because I had no backup plan. I literally took a year off after leaving and just sort of sauntered the world. But it's just something I thought I had to do for my own sanity, because I had too much up in here, and I wanted to see if there were ways to get that stuff out and still make money for
it. Anne was a total stranger, and she called me up in 2019 because she had read an article about me in the American Society of Association Executives magazine. She started talking to me for a couple of minutes, and then she said, "I'm having a sleepover. Would you like to come?" And I said, "Yes, I would." And she giggled and said, "Oh, yes, I thought you would say yes, but I also thought you might want a little bit more information first." Did you regret inviting me? I've never point blank asked you that. Today, I am speaking with Dr. Louis Rosenberg. He holds a PhD from Stanford and has been awarded over 300 patents for his innovations, which is 300 more than I have. Is everyone going to be tripping and falling wearing these glasses as they're distracted by all this content they're interacting with as they walk down the street and billboards are talking to them? And
I think it's actually the opposite, meaning, if you think of today's world, we're living in a world of flat media. People are walking down the street, staring down at a phone, bumping into things because the content is in their hand. Whereas in an augmented world where you're wearing just lightweight glasses, look like any glasses, the content will just be naturally integrated into your surroundings. And so it will be, people will have their heads up again as they walk down the street, as opposed to staring down at a screen. I think it actually will be a more natural and an intuitive experience. And the reason that I get excited about it is that we humans evolved to experience our world in the first person. It's how we understand things. It's how we learn things. It's how we build intuition. It's how we build connections with other people. It's first person experiences. And we, often forget that computers, for the last 50, 60 years have really forced users to be on the outside looking in at content. And finally, the world is making that change to allow us to be on the inside. And it will open up all kinds of opportunities.
Most associations, since they derive revenue from their events, I think most associations should have a really good conversation at the organization about what does our event strategy look like. A lot of organizations are saying, let's go back to in-person exclusively. I think that's a mistake. Because in the same way that a lot of people don't want to go back to in-person office work, I think they're saying that about events. Now, that's clearly not 100%. I work with many trade associations that really want to be back in person because they're networking and they're doing business. But many professional societies where the emphasis is on education, between budget cuts, fiscal constraints, family constraints, they can't travel. And so for many, like my sister, for example, who's got MS, she was able to take advantage of education that she couldn't before.
Yeah.
And to take it away just feels wrong.
Do you have any last words of advice on how to push through without being thanked? How to have that inspiration and motivate yourself to keep going forward, even without responses from people and all the accolades we think we deserve?
Do it for yourself. Don't do it for anybody else ultimately, because if you have to look outside of yourself for validation, you're always going to be disappointed.
Okay. Are there any last words of advice that you want to give the listeners about following their passion?
You only get one. You only get one of these, right? At least we that we know of. And just might as well be you and make the best of it. You can fail. It's quite all right, but better to live without the regrets.
It's a lot of soul searching. It's really thinking about what's important to you. What are your values? What do you want out of life? What do you want you think back to when you're starting out, you have this impression of what work is going to be. And the more you work, you realize there's a lot of changes that happen and adjustments and different paths. And you don't have to do one thing forever. You can change and you can adjust. So really thinking about what you want out of work, what your skills are, what your values are, and then what's the risk? At this stage in my life, I really do want to feel fulfilled and feel like I'm giving the best of myself and doing the things that really contribute to making the world a better place.
So I have been struggling for the perfect title for this show. And I don't know if you realize this, but I always try to keep them simple. So I try to come up with something that's more relevant to the show. And I was thinking it would be funny to replace like famous songs that are about butts with the word app. So what do you think about this? Baby got apps.
Hey, yeah.
Okay.
That's growing on me. App bottom girls, you make the rockin' world go round.
So I'm trying to keep it at 2 or 3 words max. So I was thinking like tap that app.
Again, more than I ever got on a date. I'm good with that.
What about this one? Appylicious.
There we go. Yeah.
You like that? Now this one's 4 words, all about that app.
I'm there.
You like that one?
I'm there. Yeah. I just saw Postmodern Jukebox in concert. And they sing one of their famous songs was the redo of All About That Bass. So that speaks to me. And I also am all about that bass. So all of that goes together.
Well, you could do a parody. You could sing like, I'm all about that app, no paper, perhaps.
But I'm afraid that I might need to twerk. And
that's okay.
My husband tried this in the kitchen. We tried it in the kitchen one day, and it so did not go well. I don't think the cats have recovered.
I read recently an Oh my God, Elizabethan times. You got it, Elizabethan times. Yeah. So I read that back then, the slang term for vagina was nothing. They actually called it nothing. And apparently the Shakespearean play Much Ado About Nothing was a double entendre.
Much Ado About a Vagina.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
That's so funny. Well, because you know that die was how they described an orgasm. So all of the Shakespeare sonnets, right? He's dying all over the place. Everybody's dying. Everybody's having orgasms.
Wow.
Oh, I
had no
die.
idea.
Right? Because it also rhymes with sigh.
Oh.
But I just have to say, like, I wouldn't call this nothing. I would call it something. No, actually, I would call it magic.
I thought it was your secret garden. Isn't that what
That's
you were calling
right?
it?
Sacred Grove.
Sacred Grove. That's right. That's right.
The magic Sacred Grove. Yes.
You're a guy and you're outside, and guys outside and on 5-acre land, pieces of land, you know, you don't go inside necessarily to use the facilities to go to the restroom. And true fear is when you're outside going to the restroom and a yellow jacket lands on you.
On your cloud
I'm just saying that, you know, there's
when a yellow jacket.
There is no better way to find your inner peace than that. And that moment is when every person can find their true fear. So
for me, I had a very rare phobia when I was a kid. It's called altocellulophobia. It was so rare at the time, it didn't even have a name.
Do you remember the show Unsolved Mysteries?
Yeah.
And that the guy's creepy, what was his name? The actor. And he had this voice. And just as soon as his voice came on and they had that weird music to start, and I was probably in like 4th or 5th grade, and my brother either had like sports practice or confirmation for our Lutheran upbringing. And so I was home alone on Wednesday nights. And I was old enough to be home alone, so that's not a concern. But Unsolved Mysteries would come on, and I knew like my brother would be home at like, say, 7:50. Unsolved Mysteries came on at 7. So I had 50 minutes to watch it alone. I was addicted to it. So I had 50 minutes and I was like, wait a second. It was dark out. And I would actually, I'm not kidding, Deedre, I would turn my couch, my family's couch, so that nobody could look in from the front door and see me. And I would sit in front of the couch, kind of head down. And it was just me and the TV. And it's like, if anybody was looking in the door, or like this guy that was wanted for a double murder or the UFO sighting, whatever, nobody could see me. And at 7:48, as I heard the garage door go up, I would hurry up and push the couch back, you know, flip the lights back on. And so nobody knew I was scared of Unsolved Mysteries.
What I'm afraid of now, living in Tucson, Arizona, is bad Mexican food.
I was afraid. That's why I did that. Sometimes you're afraid of something and you don't even know it. You truly think you're making the right decision because it's the right thing to do. But if you peel back those layers, you're like, oh, shoot. And you know what? And it's okay. Once you acknowledge it and know it and you've named it, don't feel bad. Don't look and regret. Say, oh my God, I finally uncovered this. So now I can readjust and aim somewhere else. It helps you nothing at all to regret the decisions you made in the past, to start making better decisions in the future.
So what do you think the appeal of horror is over other genres?
It's a thrill ride. People like to be scared. That's why they spend their money to come down here to Disney and ride roller coasters or at Universal Studios. We like the thrill. I mean, a horror novel is more than just a read. It's more than just a good story. It gives you that little tingle in the back of your spine, or the hairs under your neck will stand up when it's done right. And a really good horror novel will mess with your head. I mean, you'll be thinking about it a day or two later, or you'll have bad dreams about it. So, you know, it's a cheap thrill. You're not in any danger, but you can feel dangerous. You know, like I said, it's like a roller coaster without all the vomiting.
I feel like a lot of people in today's world have suppressed their feelings. And I spoke with a romance novelist last week, and her name is Tessa Lane. And I was asking her if reading romance novels could possibly awaken more than just romance in people, but the big spectrum of all the emotions. And for people that are walking around a little numb, would reading horror help with that, or would it help them conquer their fears? What else do you think people get out of reading horror novels?
Well, like horror is always popular during bad times. In the last couple of years, the whole world's gone through some bad times.
Yeah.
So it's nice that you can forget about COVID and the pandemic and the economy and then the grocery stores being bare and read a nice story about a family being chased by some monster. And their situation's far worse than yours. And it helps you keep your mind off of the problems you're going through. Horror always has a resurgence during tough times. I mean, we like it's pure escape fiction. It allows us to forget the problems. If you read a book with a lot of gang violence or something in it, that just reminds you what's on the news. Whereas you read a vampire story, vampires don't exist, werewolves don't exist. So it's pure escape fiction. You can enjoy it without anything from today seeping into your brain while you're reading it.
I've often heard that reading fiction builds empathy because you're in the mind of the character, you're feeling what the character feels. In most horror novels, there's a conclusion at the end? Usually someone gets away, they conquered something, perhaps?
Very much so. I mean, most horror novels I know the ones I write are basically classic good versus evil stories, with the good winning in the end. You've got a family that goes through a horrific time, but they always succeed. They always win. I mean, you might lose a couple characters along the way because that happens because life isn't perfect. But it does. You're living that thrill, and it almost gives you a hope that you can survive situations too. That you be brave like they are.
I know you've imagined trying to gain the trust of a Bigfoot. How do you think you're going to do it? Like, you're going to use like a soothing voice? What kind of snacks do you think? Like, are you going to be doing the Reese's Pieces? Like, what are you going to what are you going to do? What are you imagining?
I would try something, something that would, be calming, of course, something that wouldn't be threatening. It's kind of one of those things you just have to kind of plan out, and hopefully you planned well. And you never know what these creatures are going to do.
Sure.
That's one of the scariest things, because of course they're bigger than you, and they're muscular. They can rip trees and break them in half, pull them up out of the ground if they wanted to.
My biggest pet peeve is when my husband doesn't listen to me.
I think the Oxford comma gets on my nerves. I never liked it as a journalist, and now people are fighting for it to make a strong comeback. There may be some small sorted instances where you put that comma at the end of something after the third thing, but quite frankly, you don't need it. So cut it out.
I am team Oxford comma.
Okay.
I believe in the accuracy of and clarification of the Oxford comma.
Have you listened to that song by Vampire Weekend?
I love it. They say, who gives an F about the Oxford comma? And I say, I do. I care about it.
And that's what you do. You're in the background.
I'm just glad that they know who it is. Yeah. I'm in the back going, about the Oxford comma. Me. That's it. Yeah.
But the worst one of all, the worst one to me is that freaking horrible Mariah Carey Christmas song. I'll tell you, all I want for Christmas is I want her to stop singing that song. I've gotten so good, I can turn it off like in about 1,000th of a second. As soon as I hear that, it's gone.
So you can name that tune in one note? Is that what you're saying?
I can name it in one, yeah.
With Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas in Starbucks on November 1st. That would be an easy one. I heard that again.
Is it because it's November 1st, or is it because it's Mariah Carey?
It's because it's November 1st first, and then because it's Mariah Carey second, and then third, it's because every third song is Mariah Carey in Starbucks right now. That's a beautiful voice, but I don't need to hear it. It was Halloween yesterday. I'm good for a while.
And this beautiful man walks up to me. And when I mean beautiful, he looked like Brad Pitt from Thelma and Louise.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. And he introduces himself, and he's from Canada. So he has this cute little Canadian accent. And he leans in, after talking to me for a little bit, he leans in and whispers in my ear, Who's in charge of you tonight?
Hey, maybe people will start dating robots here in the future. We don't know.
I had beachfront property in the friend zone. Like I wasn't going anywhere. And it wasn't until
beachfront property in the friend zone. I wrote this question 1 hour ago. So you're the very first person to answer this. No pressure.
Okay.
You ready? Rats succumb to peer pressure. What do you think teenage rats dare each other to do?
Teenage rats probably dare each other to go and bite the cat's tail or something.
Touch the electrical current on the New York City subway.
About trees. Okay, so a company has figured out how to make t-shirts out of old milk. How could other food waste be turned into valuable or useful products?
I've thought about this a lot.
Okay.
You create chairs in restaurants that have jars underneath them, or like containers. So when people sit down and they eat, they then fart into said jar. They can then detach the jar from their chair, attach it to their vehicle, and that is the fuel source for a vehicle. So
but
now
only in restaurants.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not often that you're just farting randomly, I hope.
Nate, I think the average person farts like 26 times a day or something like that.
I am very below average. Or I just can't tell I'm farting. I don't know which one is the right answer there.
Well, you are getting older, Nate.
I am. I was like, what? Did someone leave a window open? What is blowing?
I'm just thinking, like, for your business idea here, that we should be making these collection points throughout the day and just not only at a restaurant.
Oh, yeah. No, I think there should be more collection points, but for our initial offering, the one that we go before Shark Tank with, it's just restaurants. Because that's an easy place to kind of get them out. But the other thing that I just realized is we also have to redesign vehicles as well to not run off of natural gas. They have to run off of natural gas.
Artificial intelligence will fire workers in the future. How do you kiss up to a robot boss?
AI scares the hell out of me. Even being in the tech world right now, AI freaks me out. And I've had to see some of the AI very up close. And it's a little scary. So legitimately, there's no winning in that sucking up game. They're going to be able to read you if that's the case.
Oh, yeah. I guess they will, huh?
Oh, it's some.
You can't feed them a virus. Like, here's some code.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, that's a super technical side. I'm talking about is interacting with this AI bot. I've watched them where they are like, they can read you. They can read your emotion now. It's getting scary.
Yeah, that is scary. Some jumping spiders can see into light spectrums that humans cannot. What do they see that we do not?
I think they see hidden moles.
Hidden moles? So they work for the dermatologist?
Yeah. They see weird moles. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. A friend of mine, Luke, said that they see the meat sweats. The last question of every episode. What should have been invented by now?
No one has invented the thing that makes you sleep perfectly.
A dryer that folds your clothes.
Replaceable body parts. Snap and plug body parts. You got a bad elbow, snap it in. 5 minutes later, you're good to go. You got a bad back, snap and play. Just plug it in like you do a plastic car part.
A pill that will allow you to shoot flames out of your fingers. I would just find that super handy for so many things.
Time travel. Like, why is it taking us so long?
I think supersonic travel should be more commercialized and actually utilized.
There's a coating that goes on your hands that will let you know if they need to be washed.
A translator for pets.
I want some sort of crossbred animal. I feel like pork and chicken for some reason. Then you could have like pork wings.
Would it be called a pickin'?
Yeah, let's make a pickin'.
I'm talking real deal ice cream that you do not have to freeze.
I want to take it back thing. Like, I think you should be born with, you only have 5 or 6 of them for your entire life, and they can't be sold and they can't be transferred or anything else. And if you say something or do something and you really, 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 really want to take it back, you can just give them that take it back note.
So it sets off an alarm at 1 a.m. and maybe you've had like 6 or 7 drinks, you get home and it says, are you sure that you want to send this?
Anytime anything takes away your ability to dream, you need to cauterize it, cut it off, be done with it. Because if you don't dream, you will never rest. until you at least pursue it. And that's what I tell people about their dreams. Don't hate them. Don't hate that you have them. Go the other direction and try to find a way to indulge them, or else you'll never rest.
If I could say anything to the people that are listening right now, it would be to think of the things that you want to do. Think of those big goals that you want, and to figure out what the next step is to get to that goal, and then to do it. Because it gets so easy for us to get stuck in a rut. And even me right now, stuck, like I said, well, I never leave the shop right now. But there's a little piece of me that's starting to think about what's the next goal. How is my business going to end? No matter what, you're at least working towards a goal, and it's fun. And if you don't make that goal, then make another goal, and it all works out.
Just follow it. The worst thing that can happen is all of a sudden you're the Geico caveman.
You really are an awesome interviewer. As you can imagine, since 1975, I've done a hell of a lot of interviews, a lot of radio and television, and some people are just abysmal. You know how to keep it going. The diversity of your questions is phenomenal. And I'm so glad you persisted and got me on your podcast.
I like this.